where it's very easy for me to tell you, oh, there's the problem right there, and it's called an immigrant.
They don't embrace our culture. They don't embrace England. They hate us.
There is now absolutely no trust between our ruling elites, and specifically this government, and the British public.
I feel like we just keep on redoing this capitalist, neoliberal bullshit.
We're on a path for unrest, I think.
A lot of people are struggling to survive.
There's just too many murders.
There are too many murders.
England ain't England anymore.
It's going to get to a point where there's going to be a religious war.
The whole world is angry.
Two friends born in Britain that both left long ago the island that once dominated the world. Now we're asking ourselves a question. Should we come back to the country we love? What if that country no longer exists?
What does Britain mean to you?
Britain is just, you know what I mean? It's culture, it's just live, you know what I mean?
This is a journey that takes you into the heart of modern day Britain. We travelled the country, we met our families. Sometimes we laughed, sometimes we were terrified.
We are at a point where something very big, very important, and fundamentally good is going to be lost.
Unfortunately, it's a ticking time bomb.
It will explode.
The United Kingdom shall be saved.
Do you think we're going to get arrested for doing this documentary?
If we really love this country, and if we're about to lose it, then it's not just our question, it's Britain's. Should Brits come home? My name is Patrick Ney. I moved to Poland 15 years ago, and at the time everyone told me I was mad. Since then I've started a family, learned the language and become a citizen, but I've never forgotten the home that I left behind. But what is home? Is it the UK or is it Poland? As it happens, I have a friend I know who's been asking the same question.
Hello, mate.
Hey, Paddy, good to see you.
Good to see you as well. How's it going? How's it going? Let's grab a coffee, man.
Let's do a coffee.
Guy Pinsent moved to Poland 20 years ago, and like me, he once worked for the British government. And here in Poland, he's built a successful business. I met Guy 2 years ago when I interviewed him for my programme, Heart of Poland, and we've often talked about how it feels to not really be sure where our home actually is.
Catchy name, yeah. You'll notice.
Oh, look, there's a nice place. Let's stay here.
Yeah, okay. Sorry about French kissing you earlier, mate.
That's all right. I know.
I've just been in Europe for too long.
You came from that kind of part of the world in England.
That's Norfolk, not Suffolk.
Normal for Norfolk.
Simple for Suffolk. I can't believe it's been 2 years since
2
that
years.
interview.
God, the time flies. It feels like last week we were in
does.
your studio.
Top 5 interview, though.
You were very kind to invite me on your famous Heart of Poland. Now, one question I remember, which caused a bit of a pause for thought, intake of breath. You said to me,
would you ever consider leaving Poland? And what would the reason be?
I remember that, yeah. Actually, I can't remember what your answer was.
I think that's a fantastic question. I think as a Brit, one always has a drawing to where you were born and where you were brought up. Would you go back?
I don't know. I really don't know. I mean, I think about it a lot, and every single time I go back, on holiday and things like that, I always think about it too. So what do you think now?
I feel we have a lot of problems, like I said 2 years ago, in the West in general, and in Britain in particular.
Mm-hmm.
I know the numbers don't lie. GDP per capita in Britain, like Italy, by the way, has gone nowhere in 20 years. Productivity has gone nowhere. The size of the state's expanding.
And yet, despite all of that, you were still saying you were thinking about it.
Well, there's certain things which are unique to Britain, of course. English country pubs, the countryside, great hymns in the churches.
Oh, love a good hymn.
So, a great roast beef in Yorkshire pudding
so I can
with all
see
the trimmings. I can't beat that anywhere else in the world.
I can see that you're still thinking about it, which is exactly how I feel, because I think about it from time to time. Listen, as you're saying this, Guy, an idea has just popped into my mind, another one of my crazy ideas. What about if you and me actually go back to the UK and have a little bit of a look around and ask ourselves whether we want to come back, and if we don't want to come back, why? And if we do want to come back, why? Have you got time in your calendar, young man?
As it happens, Guy did have time in his calendar. We jumped on a flight from Poland to the UK to begin our adventure. This documentary, chapter by chapter, is the story of that journey. One of the questions we were asking is, what even is Britishness anyway? And how has Britain changed since we've been away? So we went to visit Guy's mum Alex, deep in the heart of rural Sussex, to search for the answer.
Well, it's good to see you again. Come back to England.
Yes.
It's been a long journey, 20 years in Poland so far for me.
It has. It's gone so quickly. I don't know where the time's gone, actually.
It's a beautiful spot, isn't it?
It is. Everybody says how lucky we are. We are lucky. So peaceful here.
Is this live, this electric
No.
fence? So, having been away now for 20 years, one always thinks about coming back to one's homeland.
I'm sure.
But one reads a lot of disquiet in the media about the state of Britain. I'd love to hear in your words, how have you seen England change over the decades? You were born just after the war in rural Kent, Benenden, the Garden of England.
I was very fortunate. I think I've been very fortunate the year I was born, and I had a wonderful childhood in the country, surrounded by horses and ponies and dogs and all sorts of pets.
You've carried that through your life?
I have, yes. So, and living here, sometimes one's not really conscious of what's going on in the outside world, really.
So you felt isolated from all this noise in politics and in the cities?
Definitely.
Yes?
And I don't want to be part of it anyway.
What would you say is the best things about England?
It's green and pleasant land.
England's green and pleasant land?
Yes.
It is beautiful still?
It's...
in spite of the...
It's treasures of old houses.
Mm-hmm.
And old market towns.
Yes.
And Cotswold stone.
So how many horses have you got in at the moment?
3, and I've got the Harriet's pony.
And the chickens?
Brings them all.
Has Mr. Fox had the chickens?
Yes, this
no,
year.
no chickens.
Yes, I have. I've got 3.
Shall we wander up here then and look at the horses?
She loves people, this horse.
Oh, look, yes.
She
probably thinks we've got a snack for her.
No, she doesn't. She loves people. She'd come anyway.
Oh, yeah. Did you breed this one?
I bred her, yes.
These dogs. Hello. Hello. She's so excited. Hello, hello, hello.
He was always bright. In the sense of very interested in everything, actually. Amusing himself, constructing things. Kind of didn't need other children to play with, so he was always very independent.
When I walk around here, there's literally no more perfect place in the whole world, and I could easily see myself moving back here.
Agreed.
But then reality is, most people don't live here, and I probably wouldn't either, because it's miles away from anywhere. I still pay 50% tax or thereabouts. And I'd live probably in a much smaller house than I'd want to, or certainly a smaller place than I live in Poland.
Yes. Well, I mean, right now, in this moment, as you said, you wouldn't want to be in anywhere else in the world. It is absolutely the best of England. And as long as this doesn't get concreted over and turned into a housing estate, you know, this is timeless. This nature, this beautiful golden evening.
You know, Guy, the French claim to have the best countryside in the world.
It was hard to leave such a glorious sunset, but the next day it was time to head to Guy's favourite country event, the Edenbridge and Oxted show, which was nearby. This was going to be a great way to meet people and find out what they had to say.
So we're talking today about what Britain means, and we're at this country show. Is this Britain?
This is a very old version of what Britain was, I guess. It's changed much. This is what I used to kind of go to when I grew up, but you don't really see much of this anymore. Britishness now, it's all very vague, malleable concept, but I'm English.
Yeah. 3 best things about Britain: community. So the whole fish and chips cricket pub thing. Pubs.
I love pubs. English country pub.
Yeah, you don't get anything better than English country pub.
When we say Britain to someone, what does it stand for? What does it mean? What does Britain mean to you?
It's a brilliant place. It's a place where there's a lot of fair play and the people are lovely.
Queuing. Very good at queuing.
That is true.
Yeah, very good at queuing.
On the way, we bumped into Guy's dad, who had plenty to say about the UK.
So, Daddy, I'd love to hear in your words what you see as the best of Britain, and if you could just expand a little on how you've seen Britain change over the years, over the decades.
Well, I was born in the war, and therefore I grew up under appalling Labour rationing. People don't believe this, but we couldn't buy our own sweets until I was 10 years old in 1953. And everything was rationed. 1 egg a week, 2 ounces of butter on the table for 10 years after the war. This was Labour, because they loved controlling us. That was the thing about Labour. They want people in council houses, they want people to be dependent on the state. Now, I love
the Crown state.
Yes. And they're doing it still now.
What would you say to the comment that the so-called centre-right media, if you tune into that every day, which I do for a bit of fun, they're constantly bleating that society's falling apart in Britain?
Britain has got serious problems. I mean, I've just had to have new eyes.
What do you mean by new eyes? Not literally...
Cataracts.
New cataracts. And that was done on the NHS?
No.
Okay.
I'm on the NHS, but they were going to take 2 to 3 years, which I couldn't afford to wait because I'm already 82 years old.
Yeah.
So I had to pay 8,000 quid to have them done straight away.
Yes.
Private. Britain is a wonderful country at heart. We're not racist, unlike what many people say. You go to America and you find out what racism really is. It's a beautiful country. It's a country with a wonderful historic democracy.
That's why I'm here
today.
today.
Need people like you guys.
Absolutely adore this show.
We'll be coming back to Guy's dad and the Edenbridge and Oxted show later, but we decided to visit a totally different British show, the Notting Hill Carnival.
Hi guys. What do you think about Carnival today?
Amazing! So good! So good!
Is this the best of Britain?
Yes! Love it!
What does being British mean to me? It means upholding my culture through adversity, yeah? So being British means being proud, being strong, being from multiple places.
I like the idea of being a British gentleman. Obviously, you know, I'm a person of colour, I'm a Caribbean man, you know, from descent. Do you know what I mean? But I like the values of the British gentleman, and that's what I try and carry through for my life.
The best thing about Britain, freedom of speech.
My parents came here as doctors, paid for by the British Council to study, and they were medical professionals for 25 years. And so everyone from the different areas of the old empire contributes to the vibrancy and the brilliance that is Great Britain. And that's what makes me proud to be British as well as Malawian.
Go to the market on the weekends. It means to celebrate Carnival. It means to have fish and chips or have a Sunday roast, but be from Uganda like myself.
What is British culture to you?
I don't know what to pinpoint, to be honest, but yeah.
You say you love the culture. It's great. I'm just. What does that mean?
I don't know, the British hospitality, the.
So I genuinely think it is the multiculturalism, and like with far-right groups like the EDL and the Reform Party, they like to make it seem as if there's a divide between, you know, what we see as London or what we see as Britain, and also this sort of sentiment that Britain has to be white, which it clearly doesn't and clearly isn't.
It's home, you know. It's home, you know. I think we're a multicultural society. Respect to the natives, you know what I mean. And you know, Britain has always been, as far as I know, a multicultural society. From the Franks, you know, the French, the Romans. You got the Irish, the Scottish, the Welsh. Shout out to everybody.
And what's the worst things about Britain?
Racism.
Do you think there's racism in Britain?
And poverty.
I've never got into a fight whilst I've smoked. I've got into loads of fights when I'm drunk.
Man up in the row, so of course we're just giving up brr. I feel like my name was Shiesty. Again, we're giving them brr, brr.
Cheers, bruv. Thank you, my man.
We weren't just talking to people in the streets, but also experts and opinion leaders, such as veteran political journalist Ian Dale.
Ian, as I say, we've been travelling up and down the country. We've been hearing from different people. Some people are saying the state of this nation right now is absolutely fine. Some people are saying, as I mentioned, we're close to civil war. How does it feel for you in your personal experience?
I think this is a great country. It's a great country to live in. It's a great country to work in. If you're doing reasonably okay, I can't think of anywhere I'd rather live in the world. If you're not doing okay, yes, of course, there are big pockets of poverty up and down the country. But hasn't it always been thus? And it will always be thus, because I don't know a single country in the world where it's seen as this idyllic place to live, where everyone is rich, everyone has a good quality of life. I mean, Switzerland, I think, is probably the country that comes closest to it, but it has a very big underclass, which you don't often see very much of. What distinguishes Britain? I think our history distinguishes, and some people say our history undistinguishes. If you believe the British Empire was fundamentally evil, you're going to take that side of the line. I believe that there was good things about the British Empire as well as some bad things about the British Empire. Do we learn about those in schools? No, we don't. It's generally, oh, we were all terrible. And I think that's sad. Kids who are sort of, 9 to 15 ought to be learning about British achievement, not British exceptionalism. I mean, that's another phrase invented by the left to effectively deride our history. What have we achieved? The fact, does anybody watching this know that we have more Nobel Prize winners, I think, than any other country other than America? I think if you add most European countries together, they don't get to our total. Now, again, that's not a British value, but it's certainly a British achievement, which I reckon 1% of the country actually knows. Yep. So why don't we learn these things in schools? I don't know the answer to that.
That was a question we wanted to explore as we travelled across the country. So we headed to Jaywick in Essex, one of the most deprived areas in the UK. Would people there see the nation in the same way?
So guys, thank you very much for going to speak about England. And Carl, you were talking about your childhood in East London and you're saying it's changed beyond belief. Can you just tell us about that?
Well, if I was to step into East London now, there is no one that I grew up with lives there anymore. It's completely changed the whole feel about the place. Yeah, there's no community anymore there. I'm not being racist. Yeah. This is why I love Jaywick, because it's like England. It's like I said before. This is like East London when I grew up. You walk down the street, everyone says hello to you. Everyone is friendly. Everyone, has got each other's back. And it's so hard to find. You don't find it in England no more.
I'm very proud of our country. I'm very proud of what my mum done and my granddad going to war to save our country. And I feel, every time there's little lads of 15, 16 going in the First World War and just getting shot down. And I feel we have to remember that, how proud we are and what they done to keep us our country. And we don't want to lose that.
I've always been proud to be English, UK. Never mind about UK, I'm English. And I've always been proud of that. And at the moment, no, I'm not. I'm really not.
England ain't England anymore. In fact, the other day, a couple of people put a St George's flag up on a post and they got firebombed. Is that right? Is that right? Think about it. Just think about what I'm saying. Why would that happen? You put a Union Jack, a St George's flag up, what represents England, and we're in England, and they get firebombed. I don't see colour.
It's not about that.
It's not about colour. It's about,
she's as English as I am. You know, I grew up with, a lot of my best mates are coloured, yeah? But they eat pie mash. They support West Ham. You know, they're as East End, they're as Cockney as I am.
We'll be coming back to all the places we visited so far. But as we left Jaywick, no matter where we went next, whether it was my hometown in Ipswich, Cambridge where Guy went to study, my old university town of Nottingham, or one of the most diverse places in the UK, Luton, we found a subject that everyone wanted to talk about.
People try to migrate to UK because they hear about the benefits that you receive, the state benefits and the NHS and the free education and everything. But if you actually think how much one person is working and how much tax they're paying, nothing is free really.
Do you think you're getting good value with the NHS?
No. No, the waiting time is too long.
Big no.
They're just trying to cripple people like us. We're not wealthy. We're sort of middle. We've worked hard for our money and it's all going to be taken away from us.
Exactly, and because all the taxes are going up, everyone's getting taxed half in their pensions and everything, and it's very sad. And they're just stealing off you.
Hello, I pay way too much tax. Really? Yeah, and I think they're taking a piss with that as well, the whole tax thing.
I'm happy to pay more tax if it's spent in the right places.
What do you think about tax? Do you think you should pay some more tax here?
Give me half first. Give me half first. 100%. 100%.
We should pay more tax.
100%.
More tax.
100%.
Why?
I don't know why.
It's theft. It's, I have to work all the way up until the end of August. So imagine I started work in January and it's now the end of August. All that money I earn has gone to the government in tax. Everything I earn from now until December is my money. So I've literally worked till the end of August, and all that money effectively has gone to the government. And only in the last few months will I earn money for myself.
What do you think about taxes here? Do you think they should be higher?
No, lower. We want them lower.
What we find strange is that the people who make the decisions for us don't live our lifestyle, don't know what it's like. They just make the decisions.
I love it here, but I don't like the high tax and the socialism.
But you like honey.
And if I'm honest with you, I didn't pay my council tax last month, and because I didn't want to, because I think look at it. I look at it's disgusting. Look, there's homeless people on the streets that they're not helping. It smells like urine. The city is gross. No, I'm not paying you £200 a month when you're doing absolutely zero for the city.
You have to pay £200 a month council tax.
250.
There are all sorts of taxes that I would like to see cut or abolished. Our taxation rate generally is now the highest that it's been since the Second World War.
Should Brits come home to the highest tax since World War II? Guy and I just couldn't stop talking about it, and I knew just the person we needed to meet. Guy and I have travelled to my parents' home in Suffolk to meet my mum and dad and find out where I've come from. I took the opportunity to sit down with my dad to talk about Britain, and it turns out he has a lot to say about the British tax system.
I'm wondering how you reacted when I told you I was going to do a documentary about the UK, having been away for 15 years.
It's an interesting point. You're coming to the UK almost as a foreigner now because you've been away so long, so much has changed in the intervening period that it's very hard to see it as the same country.
You bought this house in the early 80s,
Yep.
mid-80s.
Yep.
You wouldn't be able to buy a house like this, would you now, as a
crikey,
normal working person?
No. I mean, this was, let me have a think, this is 3 times my salary, this house. Now it would be, I would have to be earning probably about £400,000 in order to support a mortgage for a house like this.
So
it's just not possible.
It's not possible, and it's one of the reasons, I guess, why so many British people are leaving the country.
Well, it is, but we're almost being trapped into having to stay in our own houses because the taxes that are being applied to selling your house are so high that actually you cannot afford to sell.
Yeah.
So it's a reverse logic. So there's people like ourselves, just 2 people living in a house that can, as you know, accommodate 14. But there's only 2 of us because to sell it, we would lose so much money to the government that it's just not worth it. So we're occupying a house that a whole family could better use. But unfortunately, it's the way the economics are.
it doesn't make sense for us to move.
You've lived quite a full life. You've lived through some amazing experiences, some incredibly dramatic moments in history. Does this moment that UK is in 2025 remind you of any other moment in time?
Well, yes. I mean, if you go back to the 1970s, Britain was bust then. It had run out of money. It was pleading to the IMF to bail it out. The amount of money that was having to be spent on servicing our country's debt was enormous. So the actual living standards of the people dropped considerably during that period.
As the years have gone by, I've thought about coming back to the UK from time to time, and it's still thinking about it. But the one thing that would stop me would be the tax system, which is absolutely crippling, especially when you've lived abroad and then you look back at what people pay. I believe the tax share is now at the highest since it's been since World War II, since you were, you know, you weren't even born then, but a few years later you were born, you know. So all of your lifetime, it's never been this high. Now you guys are retired. I just can't imagine ever coming back to this country paying something like 50% tax, or God forbid even more.
Well, 50% might be quite light, actually. I mean, I still pay 40% tax on most of my pension.
In other words, the money that you saved up for this time, which you already paid?
The money that went into my pension pot, which had to be earned or provided by my company, is now taxed at 40%. And for people who are still paying into a pension, if you go over a certain limit, then they start charging you income tax on what's going into your pension, even though you might not be drawing it for the next 30 years. So you're paying today for money that you're saving for tomorrow.
So to make it simple, you pay tax on the income you made, including the stuff that goes into your pension. Then you pay tax on the pension that you draw down. If you save any of that money, and let's say, God forbid, you pass away, the money that you've saved would also get taxed before it got sent to your family.
Yes, at 40% again, even though that I paid tax on that money 2-3 times over.
I mean, I'm sorry, but I don't want to offend anyone in Britain, but it seems to me it has to be remarkably stupid to sign up to that contract. That's a really bad deal.
Well, it's the only way of financing the welfare state.
So I have a question. What was Paddy like growing up as a child?
Patrick was a voracious reader, and he could read at speed, and he would actually retain what he read. So he became very knowledgeable across a wide range of subjects, and was very interested in anything that he could get his hands on, particularly war stories and history, back to the Roman periods and so on. So yeah, he was a real bookworm.
He was always very, very different. Very different from number one, who was very much easier to bring up. Well, as I say, he was very intense about things. I always knew that he wasn't going to settle down to a boring job.
As the sun set over my childhood home, we left my parents because it was time to cover another big subject. In London, Guy sat down with one of the most outspoken figures on migration today.
Patrick Christus, very good to meet you. Thank you for agreeing to talk to us. You are the lead presenter of GB News, which very recently overtook the BBC to take the #1 spot as the biggest news channel in Britain. Congratulations.
Thank you.
On your bio on GB News, you actually mentioned that you made a documentary exploring the migration route from Morocco into Spain and on into other European countries. You are recently going to the ports in Britain, to towns which are being affected by migration. Could you tell us a bit more about what you're seeing on the streets in Britain?
Yeah, gosh, really, it's an incredible sight to see how
things have developed, not just in this country, but right across Europe. I mean, you mentioned there the original documentary that I did a good number of years ago now, I think before Brexit, looking at that migrant route through Morocco into Spain and the Spanish enclaves, and then obviously onwards into Europe. And that feels like a lifetime ago. It feels like at that moment in time, people didn't want to believe what was coming their way. Now we are living in the reality of that. I mean, talking about immigration, both legal and illegal, there are so many different ways that you can break into Britain now. You've got what's going on in the English Channel, you've got people coming in the back of lorries, you've got people coming over as student visas and then overstaying the visa, you've got people coming over on work visas, overstaying in their work visa, people coming over as carers. I mean, we lost about 150,000 carers. You know, and where are they? There's some in this park, or they're just over there, just desperately trying to care for someone. No, they've vanished. They've gone into the system. You've got people coming over and working illegally in things like delivery drivers. You can literally just land at Heathrow Airport, having paid for a business class ticket from somewhere, you know, anywhere in Africa or in the Arab world, set foot, kiss British soil, and then you are then able to claim asylum. So there's just an unbelievable number of ways that you can essentially break into Britain, and we will probably let you stay.
You speak very openly about this. We've obviously this week been meeting all sorts of people on the street, other interviews. People on the street often will say and indicate that there's big unease, but then clam up and refuse to say there's a problem with immigration, for example. There is too much immigration. Why do you think people are so nervous to speak? We're supposed to be the land of freedom of speech. The original mother of all parliaments in Britain, championing freedom of speech and rights for all since Magna Carta. What's gone wrong here?
Well, I think it's largely twofold. Firstly, people were too afraid of being called a racist, even though they just had genuine views and were making observations that they can see and hear around them. So there was that. I think the second thing is that until recently, we didn't have the facts. So we had anecdotal data, but our governments, successive governments, have done their best to try to hide the actual figures. So, for example, migrant crime stats by ethnicity and nationality. Also, you know, things along the lines of economic inactivity amongst certain different demographics, like, for example, the British Pakistani community. All of these things were buried or hidden. You know, when it comes to the immigration side of it, you've got the sense of unfairness and the idea that the social contract has been completely broken. So you've got men and women who have just arrived in this country illegally, being put up in some cases 4-star hotels, or indeed just being given properties, houses of multiple occupancy, having literally every single thing paid for them, but also being given perks on top of that as well. So for example, in places like Oxford, they can be given free driving lessons. The local council somewhere around here, Croydon, I think, where you can learn how to become a DJ, a nightclub DJ. You know,
at the taxpayers'
expense. All of these different perks that other people, ordinary people, simply do not get. But then you've also got the other aspect to it, which is the legal immigration. And there are entire towns in Britain, I would argue in the case of Birmingham, there's largely really an entire city, that's Britain's second city, that have been changed wholesale by mass immigration, predominantly from the subcontinent, and actually in some cases specifically from Pakistan. And actually not even the entirety of Pakistan, a section of Pakistan, an area called Mirpur, which is where, unfortunately, a lot of the grooming gang criminals, rape gang criminals, have come from. So if you were to go to places like Burnley, Blackburn, parts of Birmingham, as I've said, parts of Manchester, if you weren't from that area, you might think you were in Mirpur. So now there's the additional aspect to it, which is also the politicisation of the British Pakistani movement and some other parts of the Middle East as well, which is inherently very un-British and often, you know, is based around a stricter, more fundamentalist interpretation of the Islamic religion. So we're seeing all of these things come together now, and I think people are more willing to say, well, maybe we're at a bit of a kind of line in the sand moment where we have to have a conversation about where we go from here as a country, because what does it all look like in, say, 10 or 20 years' time?
Having heard Patrick's compelling thoughts on migration into the UK, we sat down to talk to Michaela Benson, a leading academic, about British emigration from the UK.
Hi Michaela, how you doing? We're super happy to be speaking to you because you actually know what you're talking about and we don't.
Yeah, it's really nice to be with you both too, Patrick and Guy. Thanks for inviting me on.
Thank you. So we're wondering, expert as you are with your unique opinion and perspective, if you could take us through a kind of short history of British emigration, we'd love to know what it's looked like.
Okay, so I think the starting point, of course, is Britain's colonial project. Emigration was really, really central to establishing Britain's colonies and to kind of setting up what was known as the British world. And the state was very invested in emigration from a particular point, as it sought to make these colonies in its image and to kind of instill Britishness within them. And in fact, probably one of the things that people don't realise is that British state support for emigration continued until late in the 1960s. So it's very, very recent that the British state was encouraging emigration. Until about the 1940s and 1950s, the predominant conversation about migration in Britain was to do with emigration, not immigration, as it is today. Of course, the thing that happens in the 1970s is we're at the tail end of Britain's decolonisation, i.e. that shift from Britain being an empire to being a nation state, and Britain joins the European Union. And at that stage, it's really, really noticeable when you go through parliamentary records that emigration ceases to be a topic of conversation, just full stop. Now, that doesn't mean that emigration stopped. It very, very clearly didn't. Because after that long history of people moving, people have continued to move because it's almost, I would say, part of their natural psyche. So Britain actually has one of the largest per capita diasporas in the world today, but you wouldn't know it if you listen to kind of conversations about migration more generally. So the received wisdom is that 5.5 million British citizens live abroad, which is huge. What that is equivalent to is 8% of the UK population. And I think that, to me, is absolutely staggering. That is the volume that we're talking about. And yet, we have a conversation that largely neglects that story.
We've had the conversation with Patrick and Michaela. Now it was time to hit the road to find out what people across Britain think about the subject of migration.
What's very important to say is when my mother came, she came with references, she came with full medical, she came with a British passport, she had to have a job, so you knew who you were getting.
And now?
Nobody knows who's coming. If you don't know who's coming, you can't prepare the tea, can you?
I'm a huge fan of people coming to this country from across the world because I think we are a nation that is built on immigration. From the French in 1066, the Angles, the Saxons, all the way through the Poles who did great work here across the 80s before Brexit.
It's not just everyone comes in, but like, where else are we going to put these people? Do you want them to just be on the street? Like, it's so inhumane, and we're not overcrowded. Like, we have enough space for people to come in.
Because of the fact that everybody plays their part, from the immigrants to the people that are born here, whether it's the cleaning jobs or being a CEO. As long as everybody fits into that system, we're running smoothly.
I know people want to move to UK, but then you have many Brits moving to other countries for a better lifestyle. I always hear about people moving to Spain, people moving to Dubai and things like that. But for some reason, there's a big hoo-ha about migration these days.
Me, you, these people, everyone in them, we get them together. And I'll say, right, what we're going to do, we're going to go to France tomorrow. We ain't going to have no passport. We're just going to go and see what happens. What would happen if we done that? We'd probably get jailed. We wouldn't be put in a hotel, I'll tell you that, and get free food. So why is it happening?
Britain is, they like helping other countries, which is, it's nice, but also I think they should look after the British people first.
As long as if they want to live here and then live a peaceful life, then that's fine. They should let them live here.
It doesn't worry me where you're from, to be quite honest, but come into the country legally, not on a boat. You know, that's how, and then work for the country, pay your taxes, and we're all in the same boat.
You've been here since 2021. Can I ask, Adam, how you got to the UK? Was it a work visa or a travel visa or another way?
Oh, another way.
Another way?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I have a job, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm working the mechanic. Yeah, all months I'm giving the tax. I'm pay for council tax, all of them.
And
same like the English money, same like the all of them.
You have to remember, at one point, the UK conquered like 1/3 of the world. You get me? So why is it not right that people also come over here?
I feel like
it's good to have a mixed race of culture everywhere, because without it we'd be so boring. And I know that's horrible, but I just think we would.
I lived in South Africa, yeah, and I was so pleased when Nelson Mandela got released. I lived in India. I've lived in India. I've lived in Hong Kong, yeah, and I've Los Angeles. I'm not racist. I love the people when they're in their country. But these people who are coming here, they don't embrace our culture. They don't embrace England. Yeah. They hate us, but they want what we have, what we've got to give.
I think it's an easy thing to blame. I think that's what everybody's blaming things on, immigration, but I don't think that's true.
A lot of it is media hype. I think that the government are using it to cover up the fact that working families and everyone else is struggling, and they're just using it to rile people up and divide the nation. The whole thing with the flags, everything like that, it's all propaganda to, take the heat off them, really.
Whatever you think about the issue, one thing's for sure, migration has transformed the UK since Guy and I left. But in so many other ways it feels like nothing's changed. The same monuments, the same streets. We'd heard a lot of frustration, but also a lot of hope and a lot of optimism. But despite the sunshine, we'd also picked up on some people's horrifying fear that the country we'd left was heading for civil war.
Okay, so David, thank you very much for speaking to us today. It's absolutely great to have you here.
Thanks very much. I'm very pleased.
We're travelling the length and breadth of the country, and we're taking the pulse. And I have to say that having visited several places so far, it feels like this country is remarkably peaceful. Nothing bad is happening. Everyone seems to be very jolly. Maybe it's the weather. However, we've spoken to a lot of people who have talked about some big issues in this country. You've made waves in independent media and media as well, through your research too, that you feel that civil war is coming to the UK. Would you like to maybe expand on that point?
The UK shows all the preconditions of civil war as understood in civil war, in the literature on civil war causation. Specifically, it is a country that is now deeply factionalized, and actually is specifically burdened by a form of factionalism called polar factionalism, where people are no longer really disagreeing on issues per se, but are disagreeing in accordance with their beliefs of what is the consensus idea within their tribe. So you get polar factionalization basically is the penultimate step before civil conflict, before violence.
We've talked to a lot of people. In fact, Guy can maybe tell you about someone he spoke to yesterday who talked about a war between Christianity and Islam.
Where do you think this is going?
I feel like right now it's going to get to a point where there's going to be a religious war between Christians and Muslims.
Do you think those are the two tribes most at play here, or can you cut the cake a different way?
There are multiple ways of cutting the cake. The problem is that the so-called Christian West is now primarily post-Christian. I mean, you're coming from Poland, which is where the situation is different. But yes, I think that the primary division is between Islam and non-Islam.
People are angry.
Yeah, because they feel like their country is being taken over by immigrants. But I feel like that's a fair argument for them. Because me growing up in London, I can see that the white Englishman, their voice isn't heard. It's put to the side. It's understandable.
Britain of 2050 will be unrecognizable from the Britain of 1950 in ways that the Britain of 1850 would not have been unrecognizable to Britons of 1950.
Well, if I was to step into East London now, there is no one that I grew up with lives there anymore. It's completely changed the whole feel about the place. Yeah, there's no community anymore there.
I think there's been a lot of change, and I think we've lost our core ideals, which we need to grab back again. I'm a strong believer in that.
We are at a point where something very big, very important, and fundamentally good is going to be lost.
We certainly picked that up amongst the festivity of the Notting Hill Carnival. We spoke to people who said that, you know, they feel like something's going to happen.
They don't know what they're doing, and unfortunately, they're just leading us to a path of destruction.
Everyone's looking out for their own pocket, and it's a very individualistic society, but that's not going to get us anywhere except war and hate.
It's going to take one small thing, like, unfortunately, it's a ticking time bomb.
And so, David, given everything you've been telling us, how close is the UK to civil war?
Very close, I would suggest. It's accelerating. A kind of classical definition of insurgency is one that is based upon the ideas of Mao Zedong. When people talk about classical insurgency, they will be referring to this idea that insurgency is a kind of three-phased concept. In the first phase, what is occurring is political organization, networking, movement building, the creation of stable base areas. The second phase is where you start to get contestation or fighting emerges. The third phase is the offensive phase, where the formerly weak have achieved a material change in the balance of forces and are able to operate openly and essentially to seize the commanding heights.
Okay, I'm going to pass over to Guy for a couple of questions in a moment, but David.
I would just say that currently we are in phase one, or the native British population is in phase one. But when you look at things like the raise the flag movements, which are now occurring across the country, this is a form of territorial marking. This is an iconized articulation of a specific strategic narrative, which is we want our country back.
People like us fight back. They've got to do something about it. We're English. We're not going to let you take over. So what they do, stealth, they put all these foreigners in the country to destabilise us.
Near where we are, there's been a lot of England flags going up. I'm called the England flag, but they're doing it to protest against the asylum hotels. I'm not a fan of the rise in racism at the moment. It's not nice to see.
Look, if you look at a time bomb before it goes off, you know, right up to when the counter goes to zero, it just looks like a box with a digital counter on it. But it's an explosive, and we have an explosively configured society.
Thank you, David. I'm speechless. I've been so taken aback by what you say. It's quite incredible. So, in your view, we're on this path to civil war. My first question is, can it be averted? And if so, how?
It can't, is my answer. There is no plausible political off-ramp. As I've just said, the political system itself is the thing which is incurable.
Revolution. At the end of the day, enough's enough.
That's bullshit. I don't believe in that. It's not true. UK is the safest country in the world.
After hundreds of conversations, our intense week travelling around the UK was over. We were back in Warsaw. It was time for us to sit down and finally reflect on the journey.
Good to see you, Paddy.
Love this place, Anna. Love this. Just sitting down as we usually talk.
This is great. This is Oscar performances.
This is how we usually sit and talk with each other, isn't it? Guy, that whole week was really crazy. I don't know what I was expecting when we went, but I fell back in love with the UK again. And I think the biggest discovery I made was Britain, as I see it through my phone and the algorithm of social media, isn't the Britain that I saw in real life. The thing about civil war scares me, and I feel like maybe we're one perhaps economic collapse away from something really bad happening in the UK. But my main conclusion coming away from all of this was the UK is basically on a big experiment with its identity, with its ethnic makeup, with its economic model. And I think it's too early to say whether the experiment has succeeded. But I know, having travelled across the country, that I love it very much. I love its people very much. I still love the idea of the UK very much. And I'm getting emotional even as I say this. And I don't know what that experiment means. And I don't know whether I want to be a part of it either.
Well, what a whirlwind trip. Packed in so much in 7 days. I never thought I'd saw dancing JCBs in my life. That box has now been ticked. And a guy proudly displaying his 9 tomatoes.
Do you have any comments about that?
No, my tomatoes are lovely and round, and 9 of them make a lovely number.
And of course, every time one visits Britain, one likes to focus on the good and the things we love. You know, one of my favourite pubs on the planet, the Grenadier, tucked away in Belgravia, and the lovely countryside. And we also went to some more interesting areas, let's say, where, of course, the media always focuses on the difficult situations. That's the way it works in media. If it bleeds, it leads. But the real picture is perhaps not as bad as the media would have you believe, but it's very asymmetric. One day it can be calm for 20 days, and then Tinderbox blows up. For example, the Epping Hotel. It was quiet when we went there. Every other day, it was apparently
absolutely mental.
Big riot going on. And of course, all of these interviews have the central theme, the central question is, should Brits come home? Should we come home?
Yeah, and some of the answers, to be honest, got me tearing up a little bit, got a bit emotional. I don't know what I was expecting, but I wasn't expecting the answers we got.
Should I come back to the UK?
I think you should come back to the UK. I'm wondering, should I come home?
110%. You should come home.
If I personally had an option today, I would like to move out of UK.
Why not come back to Britain? The pubs are good. Just got, when the weather's like this, everyone's happy.
I'm relatively happy here, but I would stay where you are.
Don't come back. Why not?
I'd rather move out. When I'm older, I want to move out.
I think so, yes. I mean, the country's still got lots to offer. I mean, it's a great place.
Ooh. No.
Pros and cons, where's your heart?
If you're calling it home, then you know exactly where the heart belongs.
No, I would move to Spain tomorrow.
Nah, I reckon stay overseas.
I would stay in Poland, actually.
No.
We are thinking to move back to Ghana.
I think you should definitely come back to UK.
No, absolutely not.
Definitely.
Yes?
Definitely.
I love Britain, and I think what it needs is people to love it.
God, there's one more thing actually I didn't add, which is, honestly speaking, mate, how much fun I had with you. We laughed, right? We did laugh.
Absolutely.
We had something which I think I only have with people from the UK, which is banter.
Yes. Well, the ruder you are to someone, the closer friends you are.
But this whole time we've been asking this question, and now I think the moment's come, which is, should we come home?
Well,